I'm not going to lie. That music gets me jazzed up. That intro music. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah. Anyways, this is Prepper Talk Radio, ready for the ready-minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Thanks to all those who are live with us on YouTube and Facebook and in our Facebook group as well. If you're listening later on, thank you for listening. We're glad you're with us. This is our World News and Report episode. And so we're going to get into a couple of the stuff. Scott,
wow.
Did you like that,
World
Scott?
News and
No, that was perfect. That was perfect.
That was
We're going to
classic.
get into some what in the bleep is happening in the world today in this episode. At least this is the March edition. When this goes out, I think it'll be the first couple of days of April, but this will be kind of we're recording it live the last week of March. Anyways, please go to our website, preppertalkradio.com. Please hit the like button. And as we're on live right now, if you're live with us on YouTube or Facebook, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with your friends. If you're listening later over a podcast, hit the 5-star review. Let those platforms know that we're awesome and that we're growing, and you guys want to have more and more people hear from us. So that would help a tremendous amount. We actually want to remind everybody to right now, especially with the world we're in right now, there's a lot of crazy woke agenda stuff still going on. They're not backing down. We shouldn't back down either. So if you want to support American made, American manufactured, American products and services, if you want to support, in fact, I just had a friend of mine ask, hey, does anybody know where they can get good quality beef that's not got a bunch of hormones, not got a bunch of vaccines, it's not lab grown. It's not, I don't know if you've seen these guys. They're 3D printing chicken breasts right now or something ridiculous I saw. Anyways, if you want to have good, strong beef they're committed to from calf to death, from birth to death, from feed to processing to shipping, these guys control it all. And I've tasted their meat. It's yummy. It's delicious. If you're interested, go to mylibertybox.com, mylibertybox.com/prepper talk, and put some information in there. We'll talk to you about what we're doing to change our voting, how we're voting with our dollars, and some of these great products like good, strong, solid, tasty, hormone-free beef. All right. What in the world is happening today, in our day, in this last month? I know there's a couple things on my mind, but
don't even know where to start. It's just crazy.
Things are breaking down everywhere, right? We're watching. We've already talked about this before, but you've seen Elon. He's doing all kinds of stuff with SpaceX, right? Who knows what's happening there? Over in Ukraine, they're destroying every Starlink they can get their hands on, which is interesting. You've got Facebook, Zuckerberg, whatever's robot boy. He's selling off stock. We've got the Waltons selling off all the Walmart stock like crazy. You've got all the stock being sold by Bezos. Like, there's shifting happening all over the place. Bank issues going on. That's crazy. But then there's another collapse going on. Did you guys see the bridge collapse? The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse?
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things I was going to bring up for sure.
I saw the most incredible coverage of this just last night. I was watching this feed, and they showed the charted course of that ship, where it's supposed to go, and where it deviated, and it looks like it went. I'm not going to say this conspiracy. I don't know yet. It looked like it turned intentionally to crash, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, was the captain over there doing selfie live stream, like, and not paying attention? Was he drunk? Like, what? I feel like there's not enough information. We're not getting the truth about what's really going on.
Yeah, I think I've watched that a number of times myself, and I don't think we're ever going to be told the truth about it. We just have to come up with our own beliefs on what happened. And I think seeing everything else out there, putting the big picture together, to me, this looks absolutely intentional. It looks like maybe it was hacked and steered. And I mean, you can kind of see lights. The power goes off, the power goes back on, power comes back on, the engines rev up. You can see the smoke billow out the top. You can see it turn directly toward the bridge, and then at the last minute start to veer away. Yeah. I mean, that's my opinion. That's what I believe, especially adding it up with everything else that's going on right now. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's a little here, a little there, causing chaos. with all the other things we could talk about tonight too, which, like, again, I don't know where to start other than, we see these abandoned house squatters. You guys have seen this, right?
Oh, that Mexican dude, or that Spanish speaking gentleman that's like, we're going to come to America and we're going to find houses that are empty and we're going to just take them and do whatever we want with them and they'll be ours. And that's how we're going to get rich in America.
And of course, the word he used is invade. Invadir. Yeah. He's going to invade.
Well, it's interesting because he uses the words invade, but he also talks about how to legally keep these homes. Mm-hmm. He says how to legally steal and occupy these homes.
Like, how do they know? Like, how do they know this stuff, right?
Yeah, they're being taught.
Somebody's teaching them.
Yep, someone's teaching them. There are lawyers and other people who have studied these things that are like, hey, let's get on the side of these guys. That's why all these laws have been passed in preparation for these times. All these laws have been passed to protect the squatter more than the actual landowner. And wow, look back. Okay, when we created this country, and I shouldn't say we, when our founders created this country, they believed that certain rights were, you can say inalienable or you can say unalienable. They're basically two different ways to say the same thing, that no one can infringe upon these or has the right to change these. And that's the rights to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the property. And yet here are all these lawmakers who are saying, screw you guys, we're going to give all your property rights away. That's huge. And anyone that has a rental property or a vacant property, if they're not checking in on those are under huge threat right now. But here's the thought I had last night or 2 nights ago. Okay, BlackRock and all these other companies that have been buying up homes and intentionally leaving them vacant. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What can happen here? So they, since 2020, they all these funds are responsible for almost, I think it was 40% of
all home purchases,
single
family home
in the United States since 2020, which that's huge. That's why we're all priced out of homes. But who are they going to put in those homes now? And are they going to have these huge tax advantages by having someone squatting in their property now? Like, what's the setup? It feels like there's a setup.
That's a good connection,
absolutely.
Bro. Wow.
Well, I think you combine that with, it's been a week or so that this has happened. Is these major cities, and of course I don't remember exactly which cities, but one in particular that said, and it wasn't Baltimore, maybe it's Pittsburgh or something like that said we will no longer be responding to non-emergency calls, and the office will be closed from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Philadelphia.
Right? Philadelphia. Yeah, we're not even going to respond. I mean, they are greatly understaffed, but I mean, there's still no excuse, right? Again, this is, in my opinion, this is intentional. This is done on purpose. This is part of the plan. A little bit here, a little bit there. We're going to squeeze you. We're going to allow crime to increase, especially if you're looking to see what happened in Haiti and in other parts of the world, which are in absolute chaos. And we know that's coming here, and crime is going to increase. It's been happening for years in California, where okay, if you steal less than $1,000 worth, we're not gonna even, we might arrest you, but then we'll just let you go, right? We'll give you a slap on the wrist, right? And it's just all adding up to a big fat mess.
What's funny about,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's funny about the do we litigate or not? Do we press charges or not? You can steal up to $1,000. Walmart and all these other companies that have the self-checkout are starting to shut them down. They've announced that they're shutting them down in over 42 states starting this summer.
I heard that, yeah.
And they're doing it because the people who are using them are stealing more frequently, and that's a bigger problem than the ones that they're litigating and chasing after. That's a bigger problem. Like us, like I haven't stolen anything, but I wouldn't put it past a lot of people to just be like, scan 1, 2, skip a few, 99, 100, right? And now Walmart's like, oh, we're losing way too much here.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, they were hoping. I guess Walmart in particular was hoping to save on labor, right? Obviously, for pay their employees, but I think they've lost. It's like either 40% or 60. It's an incredible amount. I think 40% loss. And now, from what I understand, they're going to implement a new program to where you can use the self checkout ones if you pay $12 a month or $98 a year, something like that. If you join this club, you pay this yearly fee, then you can use the self checkout stands, right? So you're going to have something to scan that, like your pass, like going to Costco. Here's your club card, right? And now you can purchase through the self checkout, which
to me sounds more like they're going to track who's stealing.
Yeah,
right. They're going to identify,
exactly.
oh, we've got a pass, so you can do this, dude. If you're going to spend the $98 a year to do that, stop going into the store and just get the $98 a year delivery service.
Yeah, just deliver. Yep,
and just let them bring stuff to you. Here's the cool thing about that. We use that. It saves us on time. It saves us on gas. And if they're out of stock on the one we select, they almost always replace it with a name brand, higher quality, better product, and you pay the lower price. It's my little cheat code that gives us free time and upgraded food.
My little cheat code is just stay away from Walmart, right? That's what I do.
True. WebDad, will I get a $10.99 from Walmart?
I wouldn't be surprised
if I pay to work there. I think you're going to have to $10.99 Walmart if that's the case.
Seriously, it's like, dude, I came here to be served, and I got to check myself out. Like,
no kidding.
I should get a discount for this. They should pay me $99 or whatever to do my own checkout.
Well, it's like there's so many other ways to go. It's like, okay, now the whole cost saving of Walmart's out the window. So you're like, done, move on, right? We already don't like what Walmart does. We do most of our shopping, honestly, through either for home goods, it's coming through mylibertybox.com/Prepper Talk and that's like our soaps and our detergents, our personal hygiene, our cleaning products, like that's there now. If it comes to like, if I want food, it's usually going to be coming from Costco or my garden or somewhere else. But I pretty much do all that at my local small store chain. You know, and then the cheap stuff we'll get from Walmart still. But like, we pared back so much from those places so that they're not getting our dollar to keep doing their crazy stuff.
Well, my buddy went into some restaurant the other day and they had the self-checkout thing. And he said it took him, he had to wait for some family to go through and they had like 10 people to order for. And it took like an hour. And he was just like, I'm out, dude. Like, I think he went first and then he waited and watched them. And they were still going when he left, something like that. Anyways, it's just, if it's inconvenient, if it's not going to work, even at a restaurant, you're not going to have people coming back. Like you've literally made it so inconvenient that nobody wants to come back. And I had another comment on the immigration situation. I have, in the state of Utah, we have a particular leader that says, no, we're not going to accept these people into our state. We're going to, we're whatever. Anyways, there was a buddy of mine has a podcast and he had a post where some guy was on an airplane coming back from Dallas Fort Worth to Salt Lake City, and sitting next to him on the airplane apparently was somebody from another. It was an immigrant that was actually military trained that was coming to live in Utah and to be in Utah. So, I mean, here we are thinking about these border states. Yes, that's a definite issue, but they're flying, busing, shipping. They're getting people into the heartland of our country more and more and more. And I feel like Scott, you kind of alluded to the fact that BlackRock had bought up all these houses. Maybe that's part of this whole, we're going to come and squat and take. They're just, I feel like, just be careful. If you're in a suburban area, you're kind of out there, you might be okay. But if you're in a city, even if you're inside the country a little bit more, somebody's probably been shipped, flown, bust. You probably have several people in your city that you need to be worried about. And if police officers are announcing, we're not going to be monitoring the streets from this time to this time, those, okay,
Purge.
you guys will tell the criminals, We, free game. What is this?
Mhm.
Are we living it? What is that? What's that movie where it's one day?
Purge.
Just said
The
it, Purge.
Yeah.
Purge. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's Philadelphia right now, right? Or Pittsburgh. That's their new policy. Without saying this is our policy, we're shutting down from midnight or from 10 till 2. Okay, nightly purge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now
yeah,
we have you have to pay to work at Walmart to check out your own food. You have to defend yourself in Pittsburgh from the purge, right? All these things that we've seen in movies for the last 15, 20 years are all coming true. And oh, have you guys seen Candace Owens talking about the CIA and the government's investment in Hollywood movies?
No,
I
but
think
I
I
heard,
did see a little bit of
I
commentary.
heard she just got let go from the Daily Wire. Like, what the heck's
Yeah.
that all about?
I don't think I'm going to be watching and listening to them much anymore, honestly.
Well, so here's the crazy thing. So does the CIA invest in Hollywood?
No doubt.
Oh yeah.
They've invested in over 500 movies since 1947. 500. So are they steering our perspective on things?
No doubt. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's another one that I saw from another source that was talking about a Netflix deal with the Obamas. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Well, they did that show. The what's that movie that's out right now? The Leave the World Behind.
Leave the World Behind is one of them, but they have, I believe, 63. Don't quote me on this because I'm wrong, but it's an obscene number of movies that they're in contract to help produce.
Oh, really? I haven't heard
Wow.
about that.
Let me see. Sorry, $65 million in publishing is what it is. But the number of movies, I'll have to try to find it again and post it on our feed. But it was like well into the 50s or 60s number of films and shorts and documentaries to produce under the Obamas, which to me is like, okay, additional, what the heck? Why are they, and why is our government funding Hollywood?
Oh yeah.
Why are they doing a lot? What they do, you know, going back to what Parrish was saying, is you look at what's happening to New York, right? They've been busting. I think they bust in over 200,000 of these illegals, something like that. So what's happening there now is some of the latest things I've heard is of course, first of all, they've got National Guard in the subway stations, right, down the subways, checking bags and just trying to keep the peace, right? That is that's against the law. I mean, that is against the Constitution, right? And on top of that, there's a mall there. It's $1 billion mall that is owned by the city, that is leased by some big company, and that big company is now saying, we want out of our lease because of all the crime. All these tenants are just leaving, and the crime is so high in these areas that nobody wants to go shop there. And this $1 billion mall is just going to shut down, and it's connected to
I've
the
heard
subway.
a lot of those places are shutting down. They're moving out.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's a mess.
It's not sustainable. I mean, think about all the store closings. Have you guys heard about? I think it's Family Dollar or All a Dollar.
Mm-hmm.
They're shutting down
Family
over
Dollar.
400 locations. Bed Bath and Beyond is shutting down all locations.
They're gone. They've been gone for a while.
Yeah, there's so many things shutting down, right? And you can say, "Oh, it's the silent economy," or what is it? Not the silent economy, the silent depression. It's way worse than that, and we're just not seeing everything, right? So there's businesses are shutting down, partly due to the economy, partly due to the security issues, and the huge number of increased theft everywhere, right? And so, are you preparing? Do you have your home protection plan? Are you practicing your home protection techniques, your solutions? Are you putting everything into play? Because if you're not, you're behind the ball.
Yeah. And speaking of one of our great affiliates is Jace Medical, and they have just recently they announced that it says here FDA retreats will remove anti-ivermectin posts for COVID-19 treatment. I don't know if we're going to get banned on YouTube for saying that, but it's kind of like, wait a minute, people are the whole thing was to get people away from this crazy horse medicine, right? And yet here they are backing off on that, saying, no, actually it's going to be okay. You can use it now. Okay. Like what changed?
What's the agenda now?
The
Yeah.
fact that our lies didn't work. And now we have to, backtrack on it. So it's like, there's that too in this month that's happened. That's pretty crazy.
It's all nuts. Just insane.
Oh, kind of good news actually, and I don't know if this comes because we're going to need to worry about it because of all the immigration, but they just lowered the wait time on silencers, at least in Utah. You can buy a suppressor and get it in 4 or 5 days instead of 12 to 18 months. So maybe that was a good thing in preparation for.
Well, and I wonder about that as well. There's obviously some agenda. Why would that change? Because all these laws have been popping up, or these we know that the FBI is building a new center, and I'm hesitating to say these words out loud, right? They're building a new center with this new part of the new budget. They're getting a lot of money for building this new center. I think I'll say red flag laws, and so and there's more legislation like in Colorado about AR-15, basically making all these semi-automatic firearms illegal, and it's probably going to pass. And so there's so much they're doing. They're clamping down, and then they let up a little bit and give us the suppressors. That sounds fishy to me. I'm not on board with that yet. First of all, I'm not going to pay the tax stamp, and I'm not going to sign the paperwork for that anyway, right? But there's something fishy about that. Why that all of a sudden just pops up like that? Are they encouraging more suppressors on the market for what's coming up, right? Because the Supreme Court has already said that illegals can own firearms. I mean, that's a new precedent that was just set. So these all conflict. These don't make sense to me.
And if I remember right, they said that they're not required to go through the same background checks as citizens. So what is the background check if there is one?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The other thought to go off of what you just said is, okay, say they are doing this for good purposes, reducing the wait time. Look at the repercussions of this. If anyone with bad agenda wants to go and accelerate identification of people who might be able to defend themselves and to remove those people, this is the fastest way to get a new list, because everyone who's been waiting is now going to be like, sweet, perfect timing. I'm going to order 10 of these.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody and their buddy, all these shooting groups and all these other different groups are going to be like, yeah, let's all get some. And now they're on a fast track to having a full list of everybody, because it's beyond like buying a firearm and going through the registration process, or not the registration, the background check process, and doing all the paperwork at a reputable gun dealer is one thing, but giving all of your information directly to the ATF with what you're buying and where you're going to have it, where you're going to store it, and how you're going to use it, that's a completely other thing that scares the crap out of me. And that's why I'm not going to get one.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor before, WebDat as well. And I heard that maybe 6 months or a year ago, and I haven't seen anything else happen. I wish that would happen. Then at that point, I would get myself a suppressor or two, because I think they're great for hearing protection and a lot of other reasons as well that are perfectly legal, and that we should have rights to them. They shouldn't be restricted at all. And then for the Form 4 is, from what I understand, the Form 4 is once you sign that, basically you allow the ATF at any time to come and inspect your NFA item, right? Which of course they're going to have access to everything else, right? Or maybe it even gives access to all your other firearms. I'm just not going to let give that kind of permission to someone to come into my house for any reason. But I mean, it would be nice to actually have a couple of suppressors. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be fun. One for each caliber.
Yes, absolutely. So I got a whole bunch of other things on the list here. I don't know how we didn't really review anything, but we could talk about the eclipse. We could talk about the terrorist attack in Russia. We could talk about how the price of gold is up. We could talk about the recent solar storm. We could talk about China. We could talk about the red heifer. There's so many things.
The
Let's
red
talk about
heifer
this.
happened in March for sure. We can talk about that.
And let's talk about the red heifer, because those are cool. So eclipse first, because it's not March, but it's about to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing pandemonium across social media, like unnecessarily freak out. Now, historically, there are links, and I haven't been able to find anything that scientifically backs it up like perfectly and says, yeah, this is real. But historically, eclipse typically have, in many cases, shown a result. A full solar eclipse have shown a result in increased earthquakes in areas. Also, what has been documented is increased solar storms, which could cause havoc on telephone lines, power lines, those types of things.
Radios.
But what's interesting, though, is everyone's freaking out because there's National Guards that have been activated in certain areas. I'm like, it's because the local police have 12 guys working there, and you're going to have 150,000 people lined up with their special glasses and their other devices to be part of this thing. That's why they're being deployed, because there's just not enough people to cover those cities, those small towns where it's going to go through. So there's a practical answer to a lot of the stuff, but everyone's freaking out because they're like, oh, they're transporting Hummers on the railroad again. Well, how else?
Yeah, they've been doing that for a decade.
Yeah.
Longer than that. That's just how they transport them from east to west. It makes no sense to do it any other way. But it's like all the pandemonium. Let's back it up and let's remind people, you're not preparing for that event. You're preparing for life. You're living a prepared lifestyle so that you don't have to worry about everyone else panicking for these events.
Well, I think part of the conspiracy theory around that is that that the government, the powers that be, are going to use that event of the eclipse to enact something, to pull something off, to do something nefarious, right? That it's, this was just natural, and have an excuse for it of some sort, right? They're going to use it as a decoy, as a distraction, right? So,
well, what's interesting about this eclipse is that 7 years ago there was another eclipse that came across the United States and hit all the Salems all the way across. And this eclipse, I haven't done as much research on this one as I did that one, and I usually do it afterwards, but it kind of puts an X, and there's a little bit of that, spiritual, like, oh my gosh, are we putting an X across, the United States for God's
it's also
judgments?
Yeah, it's also going over across 7 towns, between 1 and 9 towns named Nineveh, whether complete darkness or partial darkness, but going over basically from Canada all the way through the U.S. 9 towns named Nineveh, and there are no other cities in the U.S. that have the name Nineveh either, and so there's definitely some significance there. And of course, the X is in the Hebrew alphabet is the letter Tav, which is, I think, the very last letter in the alphabet, and so it has there's a lot of connotations to where it's not favorable, right? It's not it's bad judgment, right? Is what it's foretelling bad judgment on the American continent,
which is biblical in just having a solar eclipse.
Yes,
that is also biblical, but having that X is also more significant, which I had an interesting conversation a few days ago. I love to delve into these topics, but it was interesting because in the scriptures we're told that God will gather in the 12 tribes from the 4 quarters of the earth. Another translation says the 4 corners. So whether it's quarters or corners, okay, is he standing in the middle of that X and gathering everybody into those 4 corners? Or has he just quartered out the earth into 4 equal spots and drawing everyone out of that? Like, to me, that's one of the things that hit, and I'm like, I can't let that go because it feels like it's significant to the beginning of something. But also, if you're in line with God, bad things aren't necessarily for you. You may experience them, you may go through them, but it's not designed to punish you, but to clear out the wicked, right? And so for those of you out there who are wicked and listening to this, it's time to repent. Like, just use this as a good reminder time, repent, change, and live better. But there's so much neat about that, because then also let's line that up with the red heifers. Like, that could become something huge and scary and terrible but also something beautiful and wonderful. And if you're not following the red heifers, if one of you guys wants to explain it better than me, it's both beautiful and exciting, but also okay, it could be a little bit scary for anyone living down in that area in Israel.
Yeah, the from what I understand, the red heifer, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but from what I understand, the red heifer was used in a sacrifice to purification. And in the end times, we know that the Temple Mount, the Jerusalem temple is supposed to be rebuilt or something along those lines. And so they need to purify it, though, before they do that. What's interesting is that over the course of, I think since Adam and Eve, there's only been a few red heifers that have even been available to sacrifice. And so this is like 100. I think it's been thousands, maybe hundreds for sure, hundreds, not thousands of years since we've had one of the like this. And I think the institute that's in charge of this, I think it's the Institute on the Temple Mount, something like that. They actually had several red heifer potentials shipped over from Texas to Israel recently to be a potential. They're still watching them, and they're supposed to be sacrificed, as far as I can understand. They're supposed to be sacrificed on Easter. Isn't he? I think
within a certain window of time.
Supposed to do it like this Sunday, even, or no, maybe it's in April. Anyways, it's supposed to be in the next little bit that they're going to do that. In fact, one of the big, if you, I think it was Glenn Beck actually did a whole thing about how the attack on Israel that Hamas did was to stop this sacrifice, or to impede it somehow, because they were concerned. If you think about the whole area over there and the arguments that they're having, if the Jews perform this ritual on the Temple Mount, they're basically going to be saying, we're taking over and the Dome of the Rock is ours now. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a declaration of war, guys. Every Muslim country, every Muslim nation, every Muslim around the world is going to be like, dude, you just declared war on our holiest of holiest places. It's it. Let's go.
From what I understand, right now they're planning on doing the sacrifice on the Mount of Olives. They have a spot already prepared up there, and actually an altar built already as well. It's rather than trying to go up on to the Temple Mountain and sacrifice it up there. So I don't know the details and why that would be acceptable, but
maybe that was a political move to keep it from being too violent. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
that's still, that's I think for the Muslims that would be a declaration of war, definitely.
Seriously, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be watching for, because if stuff like that happens in other countries, it's going to overflow, because we have we have agreements and treaties and things like that, and whether you agree with it or not, that our country is very much likes to get involved with everybody else's problems around the world. That's one of the reasons why most of these other countries don't have a favorable outlook on a lot of what's happening. At least the governments don't, because we're sticking our noses in everybody's business. And so it's like, anyways, the point is that it could be a significant cause of problems. And who knows, but there's one theory that people are throwing around that, if we're in a war, there's a constitutional provision that says that if we're in a war, we can delay elections. That's, I don't know all the details of the rules. I'm not a constitutional. I don't know the Constitution well enough to kind of elaborate on that, but I do know that there's something in there that says that if we're in a war and we need to, there's some powers that they can put forth and even delay or postpone an election. And it's like, dude, that's not what we need.
Absolutely not. That's the last thing we need. Oh my gosh. More, 4 more years of President Roomba being controlled by Barack? No way.
Seriously. It's yeah, I like what you said, dude, because it's like, who's the puppet and who's the real master behind it all, and it might be that might be the combination, but there's all kinds of stuff going on and being revealed, especially now. There's so much coming out, so much being revealed. It's crazy.
Yeah. Do we dare talk about the terrorist attack, use air quotes, in Moscow? You guys heard about this, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the death toll is up to 147 right now. And of course, it's all speculation what happened. But if you ask me, this was CIA. This was a combination of Ukraine and other players as well, but led by the CIA. So I'm sure Russia knows that, and they don't mess around. Russia does not mess around, and it's just an escalation. And I can only see it getting worse from here. It's really ugly. If you really dig into that situation, I think a good place to find some information is over on Redacted. You guys ever go to Redacted on YouTube?
Yeah.
And
those guys have a solid report. I mean, they do their research, so they're worth at least listening to, I think.
What's interesting too is like you look at the mainstream and they give you one consistent story across every channel. There's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's no change in bias. It's all the same. And then you look at news sources outside the U.S. and they're different. And then you see, for example, Redacted, who does a lot more data digging, I feel like, than a lot of the other sources. But it goes back to a statement. I think Shane, you said it earlier. Is like you get informed, like understand what's going on, but then make your own decisions on what you really believe is happening. Right? Because what we see oftentimes is smoke and mirrors, or what we hear is oftentimes smoke and mirrors to what's actually going on. Just like that silly little TikTok bill that they just passed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's going to force the sale of TikTok. No, maybe what it's going to do is it's going to do Patriot Act times 10. Yeah. More spying, more control, more manipulation. And that's what everyone missed while everyone started screaming and fiddling around about TikTok. They're missing all the other Big Brother's watching you parts, and they did it intentionally. Hide all that behind the whole, oh no, TikTok. But same thing with Gaza. Like, what's going on in Gaza? What's going on in Ukraine? We're only hearing a side of the story. And the side that we're hearing it from isn't a side that can be trusted.
Yep.
Another thing I hear all the time, I listen to quite a few different YouTube commentators, on prepper channels and homesteading channels. And it seems like a lot of these commentators, I guess I'll call them commentators, I'm a commentator, are saying, man, I just have the feeling that something big is going to happen, that something's coming down the pipeline. I just have this feeling, for what that's worth, right? I mean, I think a lot of the stories we're watching that we're talking about right now, you add all this up together and your mind starts to put something together in its subconscious, and the wheels start working back there, and you get this general uneasy feeling, and that's kind of the downside of being awake, right? Of looking for the truth, of trying to soak in all this, what's going on, and trying to understand it, is you get that general feeling like, man, it's just things are not good out there, So I guess the debate is it better to be ignorant and ignore all this stuff and just prep, right? Not even worry about it, just worry about, okay, things are bad. I'm just going to focus on getting ready and not go too deep down these rabbit trails.
That, and what actions am I going to put into play to stop the fear mongering and also stop these weird agendas, right? More than just saying, oh, I'm going to go down to the ballot box and vote, right? I'm going to start spreading the word. That's part of why we have the podcast, guys. Those of you guys listening, is to help people understand there are more of us working together to create a better life. The scriptures say, if you are prepared, you shall not fear. That's why we're doing this, helping people get to the point where they're not afraid. If you have a lot to lose, you're going to sit in a situation where you're afraid. If you have a lot that they can't control, you don't have much to lose. And so that's one of the beautiful things about being prepared, is like no one can control how much you want to prepare except for you. You can take the initiative. You can take and do the work. And again, knowledge and wisdom and skills surpass gear every day.
Yep. On the political side of things, I had a friend of mine that she's running for a local office here in my county. And she said, hey, Paris, you should come out. You should, run for office and some other things. And if that's you, do it. Like, go for it. But that wasn't me, right? At least not in this particular season of my life. I'm not interested in holding public office. But what I told her was, I said, if you give me some resources I'll share them on my timeline. If you give me like a good idea of what to say, what's coming down the pipeline and what I should, because she knows, we've had her on the show. It's actually our good friend, Carrie Bartholomew. We've had her on the show several times, at least a couple times, and talking about the different things that are going on in in schools and school districts around the world. So if you're somebody that wants to help, but you're not going to be the public eye, reach out to somebody in your local area. They have all got social media pages, and just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be necessarily, running for office, but I want to help you. So what are some things, because I agree with what your stances are. I agree with what you're doing, what you're fighting for. Like, what are some emails that I can send to legislatures? What are some emails that I can send to congressmen, to representatives in the House and Senate? Like, you would be surprised how much we can really do as a people if we will. I mean, of course, we don't want to go violent. We don't want to go. We're not promoting that. Like, don't, but if you can email, call, text, send a letter to your Congress people, to your local leadership in public offices. If they get hundreds of letters all of a sudden saying, hey, we don't like the way you voted last time, shape up, they know they're out the next time if they don't shape up. So there's some real progress that can be made if we just get more vocal on our, even if it's just sending emails and letters and phone calls.
Yeah, I'm as my final comment, I'm going to throw Practical Civilians comment up on the screen here, and I tend to agree with him. I'm not going to read it. You guys are going to have to come over to YouTube to read this comment. But I am on the same page as you, Practical. And I appreciate your optimism there, Paris, but I'm not on the same page as you.
Well, is it a good? I don't think the word kinetic is in their algorithm yet, but if we get kinetic, then we'll get kinetic. But there's a legal way to proceed first, and then in the scriptures it says. In fact, I was just reading in the scriptures, we are allowed to defend ourselves even to the point of bloodshed if we're defending ourselves. Like, so let's defend ourselves legally. Let's defend ourselves until it gets to the point where I'm preparing for the kinetic version. However, in the meantime, I'm not just sitting back and doing nothing and waiting for the kinetics. Like, I can do something now. Like, yeah, I'm preparing for kinetic, but I'm actually doing something, sending emails, sending letters, making phone calls. Like, does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
It's not one or the other. It's both, actually.
Yeah, well, there's more than just bullets and others as a solution. Like, I love what's happening with Kellogg. Kellogg is getting decimated in the market because I wanted to cuss so bad, because that jerkwagon CEO decides to Marie Antoinette everybody and be like, oh, eat cereal for dinner, you losers. Like, are you kidding me? America's talking back. Well, now we need to do the same thing, America, with our politicians. Let them dig their own graves and whatever that means, right? Let them end their careers, because we're not going to take their garbage anymore. Their job is to report to us and to take care of our rights, and they're not doing it. And so we need to start mounting that solution, that rebellion, to get people who are going to work for us in charge. And that's not just votes, right?
But with your dollar.
That's movements. Your dollar is the most powerful weapon you have. It's more powerful than your voice most of the time.
Take away your consent.
Yep. So there's definitely more than one way to fight against this. And here's the thing. Think about the tactics that the woke agendas come in. They're coming at us from every angle. Like, they aren't tacking straight on. They're coming behind. They're cheap shotting. They're doing all of it, right? There's not just one way we should fight back. Like, let's fight back all of it as well. Like, let's come after them every way we can, every way you can think of. And maybe we can, the scriptures can't be stopped. As far as I'm concerned, the prophecy can't be stopped, but I think we can hold it off, or at least if I can't hold it off, I will be numbered among those who could say, I fought against the wicked onslaught. I fought against the horde, HORDE, of evil that was out there. And I stood on the side of righteousness, truth, and light, and Jesus Christ's team. That's, at least I will be able to proclaim that.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Amen.
Well, that's about our show this evening. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, Radio for the Ready-Minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Today, we got into quite a few things about what's going on in the world and ways that we can prepare. Remember to realize and be awake to what's going on, but have faith and have hope that if you prepare, you shall not fear. If you have faith, if you're, I'm just going to say this, if you're with us and you want to have faith in Jesus Christ and his return, stay the course and you'll be fine. And just remember that there's great things to come. Have a great evening and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next week.
See you guys.